Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Everybody.
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisance to Swami Shishra Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to our morning Bhagavatam class. This morning we continue with Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 3, verses 88 and 89. And the chapter is entitled, The External Reasons for the Appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We're happy to have His Grace Dronacharya from ISKCON Philadelphia. Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances to Swami Shishra Prabhupada.
Jai, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
And it's all yours, brother.
Great to see everybody today. Hope everybody's having a good Monday morning. Here in Philadelphia, it rained really hard last night.
It rained really hard last night here too. Came from nowhere.
So we'll pick up and hear about the mercy of Lord Chaitanya from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We'll do text 38 and 39. 39 has the purport. Apanalukaite Krishna Nana Yatakare Tatapatana Hara Bhakta Janaye Tan Hare. Translation. Lord Sri Krishna tries to hide himself in various ways, but nevertheless his pure devotees know him as he is. Text 39, text 89. Ulangita Trividashimasamatishayi Sambhavanam Tavapari Radima Swambhavam Maya balena pavatapini guyamanam pashanti kechid anisham twadananya bhava. Synonyms: Ulangita, passed over; Trividha, three kinds; Simha, the limitations; Sama, the equal; Atishai, end of excelling; Sambhavanam, by which the adequacy; Tava, your; Pariradima, of supremacy; Swabhavam, the real nature; Maya balena, by the strength of the illusory energy; Bhavata, your; Api, although; Nigu Yamanam, being hidden; Pashanti, they see; Kichit, some; Anisham, always; Twat, to you; Ananya Bhava, those who are exclusively devoted. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. O my Lord, everything within the material nature is limited by time, space, and thought. Your characteristics, however, being unequaled and unsurpassed, are always transcendental to such limitations. You sometimes cover such characteristics by your own energy. But nevertheless, your unalloyed devotees are always able to see you under all circumstances. Purport. This verse is also quoted from the Strota Ratna 13 of Yamuna Acharya. Everything covered by the influence of Maya is within the limited boundaries of space, time, and thought. Even the greatest manifestations we can conceive, the sky, also has limitations. From the authentic scriptures, however, it is evident that beyond the sky is a covering of 7 layers, each 10 times thicker than the one preceding it. The covering layers are vast, but without such coverings, space is limited. Our power to think about space and time is also limited. Time is eternal. We may imagine billions and trillions of years, but that will still be an inadequate estimation of the extent of time. Our imperfect senses, therefore, cannot think of the greatness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nor can we bring him within the limitations of time or our thinking power. His position is accordingly described by the words Ulangita. He is transcendental to space, time, and thought, although he appears within them. He exists transcendentally. Even when the Lord's transcendental existence is disguised by space, time, and thought. However, pure devotees of the Supreme Lord can see him in his personal features beyond space, time, and thought. In other words, even though the Lord is not visible to the eyes of ordinary men, those who are beyond the covering layers, because of their transcendental devotional service, can still see him. The sun may appear covered by a cloud, but actually it is the eyes of the tiny people below the cloud that are covered, not the sun. If those tiny people rose above the cloud in an airplane, they could then see the sunshine and the sun without impediment. Similarly, although the covering of Maya is very strong, Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 7:14, Daivihiyesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. To surpass the influence of the illusory energy is very difficult, but those who are determined to catch hold of the lotus feet of the Lord are freed from the clutches of Maya. Therefore, pure devotees can understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, therefore, pure devotees can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but demons, because of their miscreant behavior, can understand the Lord in spite of seeing many revealed scriptures and the uncommon activities of the Lord. Om Aganatam Brandasha Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master has opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shinyavari Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The verse again here is, "O my Lord, everything within this material world is limited by time, space, and thought. Your characteristics, however, being unequaled and unsurpassed, are always transcendental to such limitations. You sometimes cover such characteristics by your own energy, but nevertheless, your unalloyed devotees are always able to see you under all circumstances." Just give me 1 second here. Apologize. Okay, thank you. So, it's a very important verse that we're looking at because it describes the it describes our own limitation as living beings, and it describes the supremacy of the Lord. In religion and philosophy, one of the biggest hurdles that is there is how do we actually get to know the person who is unlimited? You know, how is Krishna, who is the source of everything, the creator, maintainer, and destroyer? How does one get to know one who is unlimited? With our we are inadequate in the sense that the instruments that we have at our disposal, which specifically are the 5 gross senses and the subtle senses. So we have our material bodies, and within the material bodies, we have knowledge acquiring senses called Gyanendriya, and the eyes, the tongue, the nose for smelling, the ears for hearing, the sense of touch. And then we have our minds, in which we try to ascertain and determine different things according to rules of logic and reason. And but it is not good enough. It is good enough to determine some things, but to reach the unlimited, it is insufficient. And some examples here were given by Srila Prabhupada. He says that material nature is limited by time, space, and thought. Space, for instance, we've been able to go into space. We've been able to construct machinery that can go through the atmosphere, and it goes into space. And then we've sent some satellites out into space, and maybe they've gone to a couple different planets that we've gone. But we haven't even, when we look at it in terms of the universe and the extents of the universe and what lies beyond the universe and how many material universes there are, we look out into space and we see all the stars, and each and one of those stars, if they are their own individual universe, it's like we've crossed the street, and think that we have the ability to just go around the world. It's like little ants playing in a field with no real conception of what lies beyond, that there's an actual land across the ocean and that they could actually possibly even get there. We're so limited in what we can do, but yet we become so proud that, okay, we've put a satellite into space, or that we've, visited, outer space. And so much energy and resources has gone into it. And then we can look at, there's other living beings that may be that are there within this universe. Other planetary systems, demigods, which have so much higher intelligence, higher capacity than us here on this planet, and they too are limited. They are too limited by the material senses. Srila Prabhupada talks about that our senses, this material bodies, this Gyanendriya, the way in which we acquire knowledge, has 4 defects. And those defects are, we are prone to commit mistakes. Even despite our best effort, we still make mistakes here and there. Sometimes a lot, sometimes as you maybe master a particular craft or aspect of material life, you may not make so many mistakes, but we all make mistakes in some capacity. We fall under illusion. We forget, and we think that we're the doer. We think that we have some power. We become very proud of our achievements, and then we fall under the illusion that actually we think that we're the master of this material world. Another is that we have the cheating propensity. When we find out that we actually don't know, or the conclusion becomes too difficult, we manufacture results of information so that we can publish information that says that we actually do know what we're talking about. So that's cheating. One of the ways in which we see the cheating is that when we don't know, but yet we create theories, and in those theories, we determine them to be facts without conclusive evidence. So if you go into schools, oftentimes you'll see the theory of evolution being presented as a fact, when really it hasn't been proven, and aspects of it keep changing over time. So it's not conclusive evidence, it's just a theory. But the way it's presented is as if it's that it is conclusive fact. So that's cheating. And we cheat in various ways as living entities. It could be something very simple as a conversation we may have with a person, and then we speak on things that we may not have an understanding about, but we make something up because we don't want to seem like a fool. So we kind of just create things in our head, or manipulate information, or just make something up altogether. I was talking to my boss the other day, and he was saying, it was about a particular project, and we're talking about, well, what happened? We need to get all our, basically all our facts right before we present, and because we're going to be asked questions. And he says, if you get asked questions, you just make something up, and they'll believe you because you're the expert on it. And because they don't know, they're asking you, and if you don't know, you just have to sound like you're smarter than they are. So this is cheating, and sometimes it's very innocent, but sometimes it can be very harmful. But this is also a sign that we have limitations with this body and mind. And then the last is, so we talked about becoming illusioned, the cheating propensity, prone to make mistakes, and the last is imperfect senses. So these instruments that we're using to evaluate this world, they have limitations. We see with our eyes, but our eyes can only see but so far. Srila Prabhupada says that we're in this, if we're down here, today is a cloudy day, we may say, we can't see the sun because our eyes are limited. And if we go in an airplane and we rise above the clouds, then we're able to see the sun. But down below, we can't because of our perspective. So then with these limited senses, one could come to the conclusion, well, how can we understand the nature of God? How is that possible? And therefore, many philosophers, they come to the conclusion that God has to be unmanifested because he can't be understood from our limitations. So therefore, God can't have a body because the body is limited. God can't have a name because names are limited. God can't have relationships because relationships are also full of these various defects. Therefore, we can't really speak about the nature and the qualities of God other than he's unmanifested and he's beyond anything that we have in this material world. Any representation of God through this material world also has limitations. They come to that conclusion. That's the Mayavadi philosophy, that everything is Maya, everything is the illusory energy of the Lord. So therefore, when they see a picture of Krishna or the deity of Krishna, or they hear about Krishna's earthly pastimes, they think, well, that really isn't Krishna. That is just Krishna has become, when in his manifestation, this unlimited Brahma has become taken on a body in this world, but will ultimately become impersonal again or unmanifested. So it is true that the Supreme Lord is unmanifested. He's unmanifested to our limitations, our material nature, our material coverings. However, he is manifested in the spiritual world, and he's manifested in ways that our limited capacity we cannot understand. So at the same time, if we say that we're too limited to see God, God is not too limited to reveal himself to us. So Krishna has no limitations. Where we have defects, Krishna has none. So when by his potency, he can make himself seen, he can make himself known by his mercy. And if he can't, then that would indicate that he's limited. So we see that Arjuna, when he wanted to see Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, the universal form, Krishna says, first I have to give you the eyes to see. Because right now you're only seeing what's in front of you, what's in matter. So Krishna gives the eyes by which Arjuna can see him. And when Arjuna sees this universal form, he becomes overwhelmed with awe and reverence. And then he wants to see Krishna in his two-handed form, which is very pleasing. And then Krishna gives Arjuna the eyes by which to see him in his two-handed form. And then when he sees him in his two-handed form, he realizes that actually this was not the Krishna that I was seeing before. And in fact, he starts lamenting, like, oh, I took you for granted, Krishna. I saw you in a way, that we were friends, that we were equals, that we sat on the bed together, we conversed, we ate meals together. And I wasn't worshiping you like you were the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna is manifested to his pure devotees. And he becomes manifested because his pure devotees see nothing but Krishna. I had some nice quotes, but I can't for some reason. I don't know if I exited out of my window. I think I may have deleted everything. But some nice thing I'll just recall from memory from Srila Prabhupada speaking about that. A pure devotee only sees, is always engaged in hearing about the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. And because of this, the pure devotee is able to always reside in Krishna Loka. And Krishna is always manifested to his pure devotee. He sees Krishna everywhere. He sees everything within Krishna. Where one sees Maya in different places and sees the material energy, the pure devotee only sees this is Krishna's energy, and it's manifested in different ways. The pure devotee is always absorbed in hearing about the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. And therefore they're glorified as being like traveling holy places, where the holy place is fixated in one particular place where you have to drive to, walk to, take a plane, and visit it. A pure devotee carries that holy place because they carry Krishna within them everywhere they go. And therefore, it says, your unalloyed devotees are always able to see you in all circumstances. Krishna reveals himself to his pure devotee. Whereas others who are covered by the illusory energy of Maya cannot see, the pure devotee is able to see. So this is illuminating because it emphasizes the point that we have to find shelter of a pure devotee of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada has given us the shelter. He's come over to the West. He's traveled around the world. He's written these books and commentaries on the scriptures to give us the shelter and to give us this knowledge. And if we attach ourselves to Srila Prabhupada, his words, and he's left with us so many instructions, and there are devotees who are following in Srila Prabhupada's footsteps, carrying on his mission. And we have the ability to serve and follow ourselves. We too will be able to see Krishna. Krishna can also reveal himself to us. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, one can know me as I am only through the process of devotional service. And through such devotion, one can enter into the kingdom of God. The process is devotion. And Srila Prabhupada says, devotion is simply just not a sentiment. Devotion is an act of love. So we have to do and demonstrate to Krishna through our bodies, through our minds, even though they are limited. We have to use our limited, whatever we have, our limited senses, and engage in service to the unlimited. And Krishna receives it. Srila Prabhupada once said, we're really just training, we're really just pretending, in the sense that what we have to offer is a very little value, but it's our devotion. If we offer it with devotion, Krishna will receive it. And therefore, when Krishna says, I will receive, if you offer me a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. Because it's not the material value that Krishna is looking at. He's looking at the heart in which the devotee is offering it with devotion. Devotional service is something that if we want to connect ourselves with Krishna, we have to engage in. And therefore, we should try to fill our lives with devotional service. And we should try to link as many people as we can through the process of devotional service. We don't want to fall into the trappings that we can just learn about Krishna, we can just hear about Krishna, but we don't have to utilize our bodies and mind in the service of Krishna. That was not Srila Prabhupada's program. We will never be able to purify our senses if we don't utilize our senses in the service of the Lord. What I was reading yesterday when Srila Prabhupada said, if we engage in service in this lifetime, we will be promoted in the next lifetime to engage in the eternal service of Krishna in Vrindavan, in Goloka Vrindavan. But we have to engage in service in this lifetime. Part of that service, yes, is hearing and chanting. That is the basis, that is the beginning, Shravanam and Kirtanam. But from that manifest activity, because when we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, what are we asking Krishna to do? Please engage me in your service. You know, this is what Srila Prabhupada has taught us, the meaning of the mantra. O energy of the Lord, O Supreme Lord Krishna, please engage me in your service. So when we chant the holy names, Krishna will give us service. Krishna gives us the answer to our prayers. And then through that service, we dedicate our lives to the propagation of the Sankirtan movement. We dedicate our lives to the service of Krishna in the form of his Archa Vigraha, the deity form. This form, if one has not been properly educated on the spiritual science, one could see this form as, oh, well, there's just the statue, you know. And sometimes we hear people when they come to the temple, they say, you know, your statues, you know, or your gods that are there. But this is another way in which the unlimited Lord can manifest himself in a way by which we can understand and serve. So Krishna, who has no boundaries, has no limitations, who is not made of material energy, can manifest himself and enter into stone, wood, metal, and still remain unlimited. He becomes unaffected, untouched. When the spirit soul enters into a material body, he becomes covered over by the material nature. When Krishna enters into stone or wood, metal, he doesn't become limited. He still remains unlimited. And therefore he receives our service. Now, through this medium, through his causeless mercy, we are able to see the form of our Lord with our material body, with our material eyes. We are able to chant the holy names with our material tongue. We're able to hear with our material ears, and we are able to use our senses, our hands, our feet, our bodies, in preparing many offerings for the Lord. And this way, this is Krishna's unlimited mercy, that we are able to engage in service to the unlimited. And when we hear about the pastimes of the Lord, it purifies the mind, and it attracts the mind away from the material energy and into the spiritual reality. So for the pure devotee, we can see they are always able to see Krishna in all circumstances. Devotees have to be very careful. The unalloyed devotee, the pure devotee, does not fall under this trap. But those that are in the process of Krishna consciousness, sometimes we fall into various traps. We see things in terms of karma. Sometimes we don't see Krishna's hand everywhere. And we think, why is this happening to me? Why is the situation coming to me? And we're not actually able to see that Krishna is behind everything. And Srila Prabhupada said, everything in this world is happening according to the will of Krishna. That is Krishna consciousness. One who sees me everywhere, one who sees everything in me, I am never lost to him, nor is he ever lost to me. So following in the footsteps of a pure devotee, this is also another aspect of devotional service outlined in the Nectar of Devotion. Here we have to take shelter of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada has passed on the science to qualified spiritual masters. We follow in their footsteps, serve them, be guided by them, and engage what we have in this world. We have our time, we have material possessions in the form of money. We should utilize this in the service of Krishna. And if we're able to do this, by the mercy of the spiritual master, Krishna will be revealed to us and we'll be able to see Krishna in this lifetime. It only happens through revelation. It won't happen through our own limited ability. If we think that we'll understand Krishna on our own, through my mind, I will be able to understand and come up with different conclusions. This will not happen. We'll be like the frog that's stuck in the well that can't actually understand what is happening on the outside of that well. But Krishna can reveal that to us. But Krishna gives us the answer to how it is revealed. It's only if one is engaged in the process of devotional service. So therefore, devotional service is paramount, and we should dedicate our lives. We should stick to it and become undeviated in this pursuit. Srila Prabhupada gives the reference to the verse, Daivihi yesha gunamayi mama maya dharatyaya mameva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome. So we're trying on our own to overcome it. Krishna says you can try so hard, you'll still become baffled by this material world. And you'll become distracted. And again, you'll have to take birth. And you'll become distracted again. And you'll become distracted from distractions. And then again, it'll become even more complicated. But Krishna says, if you surrender unto me, you can easily cross beyond it. He just pulls it back. So it's like being in a prison house. We can try so hard to climb over the walls or dig ourselves out of the cell and go through the jail, and escape. But it'll never happen. And we can try lifetime after lifetime after lifetime to try to break free. But if we just follow the pathway that Krishna has sent, the process of devotional service, which is the DNA of the living entity in its natural state. Krishna is like the head of the state or the warden in the jail. And he just releases and says, okay, you're free to go. And you just walk right out the front door. And it becomes that simple. It's that simple for the Supreme Lord. We can't see Krishna because we're down below the clouds. Krishna lifts us up above the clouds, just like that. Now we can see the Lord. So we have to follow the proper process. And the pure devotee is always engaged in the service of the Lord. They're following the proper process. Therefore, Krishna reveals himself to these exalted souls. Hare Krishna. I'll stop here and see if there's any questions. Again, I apologize. I had these notes, and at a certain point, I stopped looking for them and just went off. But if I was a little slow there at times, it was just because I was trying to recall a couple of things.
No problem at all. It was still a very wonderful class, Dronacharya. Very, very meditative and very soothing, I have to say, is what's coming to my mind. Thank you so much. Would like to ask devotees if any questions, any comments, clarification, please do unmute yourself. You can raise your hand or you can put it in the chat and I'll be happy to read it. Or even a takeaway, a realization, please do unmute yourself. Would like to hear from you. Drona, I have from my mind clarification. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that in the third line, and I'm trying to clear the doubt in my mind. He says, however, it is evident that beyond the sky is the covering of the 7 layers. Is the 7 layers, is he talking about, that's the 14 planetary systems? Is it talking about the 7 above us? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
I'm just wondering what he means by that.
I'm not sure. I don't know exactly. It's interesting because it says each one are 10 times thicker than the one preceding.
Yeah, now that's pretty thick. That's what I was wondering.
Maybe Pariksha Prabhu, do you have some understanding? Share.
When you mentioned 10 times thicker, I knew that it had to be talking about the earth, water, fire, like that. At the covering of the universe, those are also present. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. Now, he said 7 layers. I know that's 5 of them. And I don't know the 6th and 7th because I can't, my mind simply won't accept mind and intelligence. but I know that those coverings are there. I can look it up really quickly to see.
I'm curious because the next line. Yeah, because the next line he says the covering layers are vast, but with or without covering, space is limited. So I was just trying to understand, just for my mind. Just curious. Trying to be a curious George here.
Yeah, no, it's a very good question. We can research it a little bit here.
Yeah.
But it does go to show that just how complex it is, because even if we think that we have some understanding of the realm that we're in right now, and which we really don't, because things are happening and according to ways that we don't even understand. We don't even really understand how our bodies work, how digestion happens, how we put food into our body, and it breaks down and actually creates energy. And Krishna says, "I'm the fire of digestion." He says that is actually me. He says, "I'm the one that keeps these planets in orbit. I'm basically upholding it." And there's so many ways that Krishna is making things happen, but we're trying to understand it from our perspective. Why are certain species, they have different habits, the way they have, we just don't understand even the way that water interacts and flows through different types of vessels and under different types of pressure. There's so much material nature we don't understand. But of that which we do understand, the layers keep getting thicker and thicker, by a degree of 10, which is another just indication that the walls of the jail cell, if we're trying to escape using our own selves to escape them, it's just going to become more and more complicated. It's from our perspective, it's unlimited.
And that's why when you were reading it and said each of them is 10 times thicker, and then after hearing your class, I said, whoa, it's gonna be a pretty tough challenge to permeate through those layers, you know?
Even when we think in terms of time, Srila Prabhupada said, billions and trillions of years. One day of Brahma is it's unfathomable to our limited minds. 4.32 billion years. That's just one day. And he also has a night, and that's the same duration. And then that keeps going on and on throughout the course of Brahma's lifetime. I mean, it's we talk in terms of what, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, George Washington and the country was formed, 250 years ago. The Romans lived, 2,000 years ago. This is what we consider to be history. We're talking in terms of, tens, hundreds, thousands of years, and, just one day of Lord Brahma, 4.32 billion years. So even our estimation of the extent of time is completely inadequate. What we consider to be historic, it's really just 100 years. Oh, this is an historic building, But you can only imagine 10,000 years from now, who will remember us? Who will remember our achievements? 200 years ago, or 200 years in the future from now, who will remember? We're completely inadequate. And that is another takeaway from this verse, is that even though we feel we are so important, and this life is so important, it's if it's not used in the service of Krishna, which will allow us to be released from this material world by Krishna's mercy, that is the only real benefit and use of this lifetime. Everything else, it'll be forgotten over time.
Hare Krishna. So while you were talking, the important points that you were making, I also looked it up in the Vedas. The coverings, and each one is 10 times heavier than the other. 10 times thicker than the other covering. In Bhagavatam, 6th canto, chapter 16, text 37, 1637, says, this is the translation, every universe is covered by 7 layers, every universe. Earth, water, fire, air, sky. So that's the first 5. Then it says the total energy and false ego. And each 10 times greater than the previous one. So that's what it says here. So the 7 layers are earth, water, fire, air, ether. And the earth is first covering, and water is 10 times thicker, and fire is 10 times thicker than the water, and then air is 10 times thicker than the fire, and so on. The sky. So there's sky beyond this. This is the covering of the universe. And then he says the total energy and false ego. Those are the 6th and the 7th. Okay. That's what is in the Shastra. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Parikshit Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
It
just shows that the false ego, just how thick it is. That's the thickest. And the others we can see, you can imagine how vast the sky is, right?
Yeah.
And the false ego is, so the total energy is 10 times thicker than that. And then 10 times thicker than that is
the false ego.
False ego.
Hare Krishna.
So how do we shed it? We think on ourselves, we can talk ourselves into it, we can convince ourselves, we can do something, physically or mentally. We have to try. But Krishna says he can release us from that. But if we think on our own through some type of mechanical process, that we'll be able to overcome it. We're an illusion.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That was good information. And like Dronacharya said, yeah, the ego is really thick. Hare Krishna, pretty intense. Thank you. Anyone else has any questions to ask? Any reflection and thought of takeaway? Anything that you would like to ask? Just going down here. And if you don't, let me see. We thank you all so much for joining the class, and thank you, Dronacharya, for such a meditative class and showing us reminding us, showing us the layers we got to clean up in our Krishna consciousness, and also really helping us to realize, that we have such limited vision, but like you said, Prabhupada says, but to Krishna, there's nothing that's limited. It's completely limitless. So thank you for sharing that and helping us to really see how seriously we have to take the process. And I want to thank you for also bringing up the point of the importance of having a spiritual master who's going to help us see through these things clearly and help us to shed our coverings to get to the Lord. So thank you so much for this wonderful deep class. And we thank all of you for joining us. You want to say something, Friction?
Yeah, one more thing. I
Please.
sent a private chat text to you because you mentioned that you had somehow inadvertently deleted your notes. And I was saying if it's on a laptop, then you can go to the recycle bin and try to see if it's there.
Yeah. Okay. I'll look into that, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Because you can reinstate it if it's in the recycle bin.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you. Just goes to show you, prone to make mistakes.
That's all of us.
One of the imperfect senses, right? That you talked about. Yes. But it was still a very nice class, Dronacharya. Absolutely. Very, very deep, very, as you were speaking, I was realizing, we've seen this cartoons, where it's a small little miniature guy before a giant kind of a thing, and it shows how, for me, that our position is so tiny, tiny, small before Krishna, like so tiny, tiny, small, yet we think we are the controllers and we can own everything when we can't, So thank you so much for this wonderful class. And we thank all of you for joining us. Vanchakaptibhyascha, Kripasindhabevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare